Hey, we'll go ahead and get this thing started. Appreciate y'all coming. So we got Jared from 3M. He works for the manufacturer that's going to deal with a lot of the products that we're going to talk about tonight. And we also have who? Brett Mass. And he's from Norton, which also represents Fuser products. Okay, those are lines that we sell. We're also going to be, when we talk about the epoxies and all, we try not to do these classes talking about one particular brand because we sell multiples, and that's why we have different people up here. So we'll do a little bit here. Well, most of it will be in here. We'll do some outside over in the other shop. There's not a lot of ways to do this one with a lot of hands-on, but we will do some. This is going to be geared toward OE repair, because some of y'all are from certified shops. And some of it is going to be geared toward some of the things that you're going to do on the restoration side also. We have a rusty Mustang back here, and we'll be able to talk about what we're going to do, strip and paint, what we're going to put on it when we do, why some of those areas rust the way that they did, why we see a lot of these things out in the field that are not done correctly, and why they rust horribly. This is a really cool video. Compared to what all of you in here, I know at some points dealt with working with old cars, old Camaras and all that kind of stuff, right? They didn't get that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In those days, if you couldn't spray it on there, it didn't get there. So old cars were prone to rust dead from the factory. They really didn't have no such thing as real corrosion protection. The best thing that they had going for them is they might have had a better quality steel, which helped them out a lot. Some of the products that they put on there may not be as good as what we have today, but they did have some good attributes. They had a lot of lead, chromium, heavy metals, all that bad stuff that kills you that was actually good for the product. Vehicles now, when they go through an assembly plant to be made, the bodies are welded together on jigs. They hang the doors, they hang all of the external parts, and you will see them go through these cycles where the whole car is dipped. So it gets all in every crevice. Some vehicle manufacturers even do a twist inside the tank. They do that at Volvo. I've seen that firsthand. No earthly idea how they get them to be actually smooth, because when they come out of that tank, they go straight up and it's just running out of it. Yeah. Well, that is what we're going to call a real E-coat. It's an electrostatically charged product. Then they go through the whole process of seam sealers, all these different things. Car gets painted.
Was that two different processes, or was that just two different vehicle manufacturers? The two different bits?
It was two different vehicles. One was a BMW and then that was a Cadillac. So.
Yeah. The unfortunate part, and this is something that is probably not realized, and this bites us in the butt. You've seen all of those parts go through that tank and get dipped, right? You buy a new deck lid for that car. You buy a door for that car. It's E-coated. You think it's done the same way. It's not. It's actually electrostatically sprayed E-coat, because it goes through a whole different process. So what does that really mean? That means that all of that joints inside that hem flange didn't get anything in it, because if it couldn't get there by the electrostatic charge, nothing got there. So now when a shop, your shop, Kendrick shops, all of these, you buy a brand new door, brand new hood, you flip it over, the hem flanges have to be seam sealed, because now the manufacturer doesn't even do that anymore. By all rights, the cavity wax portion of that is supposed to be sprayed in there. That's what you as a as a user, is supposed to be doing.
Panel, hood, fender, door, quarter panel, you name it, you put on, it should have cavity wax sprayed on the back side of it before everything's completed on the vehicle. Now, your painter will hate you. I mean, hate you if you spray that before it goes in the booth.
Yeah.
Because it will create them a mess. But a lot of people skip that step of those new panels because as collision or restoration, we don't have a big vat to dump the car in, right? So it's our job to make sure all that gets in every crevice possible. And 3M and Norton both has made it super simple for us to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll get into it a little bit later, but I actually contacted our store across the street and said, tell me how many cans of cavity wax have you sold? Basically just asked for the last month. They gave us numbers for the last year and a half.
Oh, to January 24.
Yeah, okay. Astonishing low numbers,
Yes.
okay? And this is the part of it that we have preached over and over and over again about how important this particular step is, and it's one of the most overlooked steps. You want to tell them how many hours normally goes per can?
Yeah. So, and again, this is 3M's research that's come against this. Brett, I don't know if you've got anything else, but looking at an average body man turning 80 hours a week, we know that one guy might be a heavy hit guy. We know that one guy might be doing primarily smaller stuff, but the average across the board is if you're turning 80 hours a week, you should be going through a can of cavity wax a week. And every time I say that, everybody's all like eyes rolling and all that, because a lot of guys will have the same can of cavity wax on their bench for 2 years.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, and Larry alluded to it, so when we watched that video, that car was dipped and turned every which way, so it is in all the crevices. Again, he said that the replacement parts are sprayed. So everywhere, like if you put on a new door, all the way around that door, there's really not anything there. They do their best to blow it in there and get it, but they are sprayed, so there are holes in that, right? We also know that when we send a job to the paint shop, I was a painter for 14 years. I never tried to get inside that door and go all the way around and try to blow it, and I never would have been able to get the coverage even if I tried. You're not going to do that.
So when you get that in there, what's the process for cleaning off the overspray?
The overspray of this,
Yeah.
There's none.
no.
So
You're only
the
doing
ones,
it inside of the
Yeah,
door.
you're doing the
Yeah.
inside, so your painter's gonna hate you, you gotta get it clean.
If it's done before it's painted,
Yes.
you putting enough of it in there, and that's going to be part of the hands-on part, is how much to actually put. It's probably going to run out and seep out through some of the holes in the door, and it's going to run out.
and
of
you
it.
want it to.
Yeah, because you actually want it to be enough to do that, and you got to clean all that off. So being that it is an actually oily wax, it's a massive cleanup job trying to get ready to paint the car.
Yeah. Think of this as your pre-build-up, right? So the car gets painted, the parts get painted, it comes back, then you apply the wax when the painter hopefully doesn't have to touch it again, barring something bad happening in the shop and a repaint.
Yeah.
But with that, we've got different wands. Norton's got
Here, let me open them.
different kind of cables there and stuff. But what I wanted to show you is, so there's 3 different sizes in here. The smallest one doesn't have anything in the end. It doesn't have anything in the tip, but you can see, I'll pass this around. So you can see the 2 larger sizes have a little 360-degree head on them. And what that's going to do is when we go down and we're able to use some clear bottles and kind of show you what that does, it's going to spray the product 360 degrees all the way around.
Yep.
This one does.
This is a Norton product. It's it's flexible and it'll stay where you put it.
Yeah. So the reason that you want that, let's say you're putting it in the panel, right? You're splicing into the rocker and into the cell panel, so you can see this side-by-side comparison here with cavity wax, without cavity wax, right? So this is essentially put in here in one of the access holes. You put it as far as you need it to go, and then you press it, you pull it all the way back, and you're going to do that 3 times. Every pass you make is going to be about 10 mils of product. You want 30 mils of product when it's all said and done, right? So you put it all the way in, you press, you pull out, you put it all the way in, press, pull out, all the way in, press. No need for any kind of flash time or anything like that. But what that's gonna do is it's gonna give you a coating all the way around. We've got a little demo out there that's gonna show you this stuff actually defies gravity too, as crazy as it sounds. We can all think that we'd spray it in there, and of course gravity would let it
rise
seep
up
down on anything that's below the access point, right? But it actually is gonna climb up and seep into where you've got those two panels welded. It's gonna go in those seams and it's gonna keep everything protected from the inside out.
You're gonna give them the technical term on that?
What's that?
Wickening?
Wickening.
So, a lot of times, you know, people look at this and they're like, we're in the South, we don't really have to worry about all the salt. Well, it's not anything about salt, it's about moisture. We all know that if you put in a quarter panel and you splice it into the rocker right there, water is going to get in there. But more so than that, it's not about coming back and having a redo, it's about keeping this structurally sound. So if that car is in an accident, it protects the occupants inside, right? We know that if we get rust going and we start, you know, having damage to those panels, it's not going to act the way that it's supposed to with the crash zones and stuff like that. It's not going to protect the occupant the way that it needs to be. So it's more so than just not having a redo. It's about protecting the people that are inside the vehicle.
And I will tell you to add to that, you guys in the collision industry, we have a company called Wreck Check. They haven't made it quite down here yet, but they're getting close. That's the very first thing they look at. They run a camera up in panels. If they don't see cavity wax, you just bought that car.
And that's the biggest thing that I hear too.
And you might not have wanted that car.
Yeah, like when you go to a shop, you're like, well, why didn't you do that? Well, insurance doesn't pay us for it. Yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
Yes, they will.
And it's so fast. I mean,
It is.
you should be getting paid for it. They will pay for it, but at the same time, I mean, it's a.
And here's my biggest problem with that. They will pay for it, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't put it on your bill and then not do it. And the reason it gets forgot, in my opinion, the car has to go to paint first before you start spraying cavity wax and everything. You go to get the car back from paint and you got to put it together. You have completely forgot that you got to run 10 seconds to run that wand through some panels. And that's how easy it gets forgotten.
That would be your application guide in the areas that's going to be normal, right?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, you can see where I was talking about a can a week. I mean, a lower frame rail use is about 1 can. So it doesn't take much to go through one of the cans when you're applying it the way that you should. Third of can on the pillar, 1 1/3 can use right here on the rocker panel replacement. I would say that's, you know, a big one. But section in areas, but something about the new panels, right? You get a new door or something like that after it's painted, going all the way around it to make sure all of that's good, protected. But something you don't think about, say you're going to repair this corner panel, and you got to put a stud on it. And you put a stud on it, you've now burned the backside of that E-coat. You should be putting this, you know, with not with the 360 head, but just being able to shoot it on that. You should be putting that on the backside of your repair just to be able to protect that, because now you have disturbed that E-coat that came from the factory and it needs the protection. So if you think about it, anytime you're working with metal with this, whether you're replacing a new panel from the, you know, out of the box, or you're welding on a panel, or you're repairing a panel, if you're working with metal, most of the time you're going to be using this. And that's where people really don't see when you talk about the 1 can a week per body man kind of thing. They kind of roll their eyes. But if you're using it where you're supposed to be using it, it doesn't take long to go through it at all.
And I'll tell you real quick, it's kind of off subject, but you have those wands in your hand. There's a lot more uses for them besides cavity wax. So especially you restoration guys, you can take that same wand. The 3M wand doesn't work on the Max can, but that's a 2K epoxy that the Norton wand will fit right on the top of. Okay, so you can get 2K in places you normally can't reach, and that will do it for you. So just thinking out of the box with some of the tools we have.
So when we talked about how much of this has been used just in our own market, in that span of time, what was the number on the 3M?
68 on the,
68 cans in that
2
length of
months?
time.
in a year and a half.
In a year and a half. Yes.
Greg,
Your brand,
close your ears.
Revive. How many of that? 79 cans. That's pitiful. What does that tell you? That our market is putting a lot of cars out that don't have corrosion protection like it's supposed to have.
That will save your butt. I
And
promise.
that's whether it's on the collision side or, actually, I think it's less used on the restoration side when it kind of should be more.
It should be.
Yeah,
Where my
because you're
restoration
cutting
guys
and
at?
welding and doing so many different types of things,
How many
whether
cans
it's the
have you bought,
frame
Greg?
or whether it's the body or whatever.
3.
How many
You
of
get the
you
real
has,
tall can.
how many of you has taken a GM truck, old one or something, or a street rod, and you've clipped the frame and you put a Camaro front clip on it? You got to have something that's going to go up in there. If you just leave it open, it's going to get moisture in there. It's going to rust.
Yep.
Okay, and it's thick metal. It might not rust in 5 years, but it might come apart at some point later down the road. You don't know. You just don't want it chased back to you. Okay, we're dealing in a time when everything's lawsuit crazy. So you guys that are working on cars for other people, make sure that you're doing these steps to keep you out of trouble and to keep your customers safe.
Absolutely.
Okay, all it takes is one wrong move for somebody to have an accident, and what your repair comes into question. And it may be a good repair, and the repair may not have anything to do with the accident or whether somebody died or not. But the right lawyer gets a hold of it, you done something wrong and you're going to court.
And there's
Yeah.
people out there just to find stuff wrong. That's
Yeah.
that's their sole job.
Yeah. So obviously, when you look at all of the shops that we sell paint to in the CSRA and beyond, that's not a lot. Nowhere near what they ought to be using.
Once it's set, once you sprayed it and it's allowed to dry, is it flammable? If you're welding on a car that has had wax?
Generally
we can find out in a
not.
little bit if you want.
Huh?
So we can find out for you out back. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So generally, I don't know how many of you cut a rocker out of a late model Beetle.
Oh, they're covered in it.
And from the factory, those things are full of it. And you're cutting it out, and it's just running all off on the floor when it heats up. But you generally don't see it
goes back
flaming.
to a liquid.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why you wouldn't want to put it in before it's painted, because when the car is painted, and not only fish eyes, but then when it's baked, it'll run.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have some problems.
Exactly right.
I said the car's got a bathroom problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is one of the most important steps in corrosion protection, is using it. That's it.
And y'all are going to see, for those of you that haven't used it, when we spray
Yeah.
some out back, we got some bottles back there that
Yeah.
it's a no-brainer. It's
Yeah.
super simple. You run a wad in there, you spray it, you pull out while you're spraying. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I know I can talk for a long time on epoxy. Would you like
Would
to
you like
go?
me to go over weld
Would
through?
you like to go ahead and do weld through primer?
Cool, I will. Does everybody know what weld through primer is? We got 2 zincs up here. They have a copper too. One thing I will tell you about weld through, it's just as important as the cavity waxes or the epoxies, because when you're welding in a panel, you have no way to get back in between those 2 panels. So there's some kind of corrosion protection in there, right? One of the most important, everyone wants to say when you spot weld with this stuff, it splatters, spits, and it does. But when you get to your spot weld, take a wire brush on your drill if you want, clean that one spot weld out and get all the weld through off, and then weld it, okay? It keeps your protection outside the weld, but it'll also make you weld better when it comes to that spot weld. Second part of that, if you get any of this on the outside of a panel, say when you're spraying it, and then you got everything fixed and there's some, like say on the outside of the quarter, you need to clean that off before you go any further. You don't want anything on top of this, because it really doesn't adhere that well to the metal, right? So it will wipe off with lacquer thinner just as easy, but you have to do that step or you will come back later and be redoing that. Materials will come loose. OE procedures for some of this stuff, Chrysler is the #1. They don't want this stuff on any of their cars if you go by OEM procedure with Chrysler. Everybody else wants it because it's there for a reason, but Chrysler says on every OEM statement, do not put it on their cars. I don't know the reason for that, but weld-through primer does serve a major purpose. Panel has to be bare metal before it's sprayed on there, okay? let it dry, you sandwich the two pieces of metal together, you're good to go from there. Even with resistance welding, it will go through the resistance welding also, okay? Does anybody have any questions on weld through, or do y'all have anything y'all need to add?
What about copper?
My competing people over here. We don't even use copper anymore.
That's why I'm asking. They might not know.
The zinc seems to not.
They're
Yeah,
going to
the-
find out in the market that there's,
Better
that,
than the standard welding, the copper welds better.
It does,
To me, there's less aggravation with your weld. which-
right, but most OEs don't want it.
Fine.
Yeah, because it's becoming obsolete. Most OEs don't want it.
That's correct.
They want zinc, and both these companies make zinc weld through. Y'all are on the spot. My two competitors here.
I mean, pretty much the zinc is, I've been told that the zinc actually doesn't spatter as bad as the copper, but you may have a different experience.
Yeah, I've always had worse experience with the zinc.
Really?
Even cleaning?
Not as much after cleaning, but
Okay.
it will draw it sometimes.
It will.
Cleaning it, when it gets hot, it wants to draw it in there because it gets, it wants to melt it. But the copper just seems to work. It's not that you don't have an issue.
And everybody knows proper maintenance with cans, right? When you get through spraying, flip it upside down, spray it till it sprays clear.
now we're going to talk about epoxy primer. We will discuss slight amount of etch primer. I'm not a fan of etch primer. I'll give my reasons why. But you walk around at a car show or the car lot or whatever, and you're looking at a car. What's considered to be the rock star? What draws you to it? Finish, color, depth of clear, those things.
Red shoes.
Correct? Hot bake with red shoes really do it. Yep. The true rock star is what's underneath it. Okay? Why does the finish on a brand new car have a particular luster that we have to try to achieve? They seem to have it pretty easy. Well, they're putting everything over a really hard substrate. They have a multi-billion-dollar paint facility that they're doing to paint these cars in, and they're cranking them out, okay? Our process has to be totally different, all right? So in that, the better the surface that you're painting on top of, the better your job's gonna look when it's finished and how long it's gonna last, okay? So you can pile a bunch of clear on a sponge and eventually make it look slick and shiny. But it's still going to break apart because it's still a sponge, okay? If you pour clear on a glass, it's going to be beautiful right off the bat because you just went on top of a rock hard surface, okay? Part of that is going to lead into why you're going to want epoxies for your ground coat on your overall jobs. You guys that are doing restoration work or something that you get at the shop and you got to strip the entire front end, whether it's aluminum or whether it's steel, whatever the case may be. Epoxy primer is going to always be the best way to go because it is, of all of the primers that you're going to ever talk about, it is the only one that is truly waterproof. It's the only one that does not wick moisture. We're back to wicking. Yeah. Okay. The old days, you used to see the guys with the hot rod driving around in a primered Chevelle or a primered Mustang or whatever. The primers that we would have used back then to do all that was actually hurting the vehicle in the long run because you're not going to drive it around and let it sit outside for 2 years and it absorb moisture the way it's going to do and expect to be able to just sand over it in a weekend, paint it, and it look good. It's going to come back and bite you because it's absorbed all that moisture. Urethane primer is no different. Any of the primers that you use to put over your bodywork, those will actually draw moisture also. They also can't be out in the sun for any length of time. Okay? Epoxy primer doesn't have anything to it that can really take a lot of sunlight, but as long as it doesn't have direct sun, it's pretty much going to hold up. You can epoxy primer the bottom of a car, and it's going to look like E-coat, and it's going to act like E-coat. It's going to be your closest thing that you're going to get to that E-coat. As long as it's over a really good, strong, very well prepped steel or aluminum, it's going to be there for life. Okay. You can generally do it with 1 to 2 coats. The 1 to 2 coats is going to be based off of which of the products you actually decided to buy. Now, the reason that I passed around those little samples is because the suggestion is that anytime you're putting seam sealer on a vehicle, and if you have the time, if you can put epoxy primer down for your seam sealer, you also can put epoxy primer down before you put body filler on. Okay? For the collision shop, that's a little extreme, and I get that. Okay? Best scenario, long term, you'll have the best holdout. Okay? Everything on a collision shop is rush, rush, rush. Okay? When I first went to my first paint class that a guy was teaching, and we were taught, and of course, most of you wasn't born then, some of you. It was, well, actually, it was 1985, and we were taught then to use epoxy primer on everything and put your body filler and all on it, whether it's a collision job where you're only fixing one dent or whether you're doing a restoration. Those same rules still apply. Body fillers have got better. You do have body fillers now that have corrosion inhibitors made in it and all that. So I get that on the average repair job that comes into your shop, you're not going to want to put epoxy primer on it. You got the cost of mixing it up, and you've got the wait time waiting on it to dry before you put filler on it. But truly, that is the best scenario for longevity. It's still going to be fine. If it's not in good shape, if it's not real clean, if it's rusty metal, put the epoxy on it first. Yeah, that's going to get you your best way out. They will be a few cars in the future, a couple of the manufacturers that will have listed in their pages that they want epoxy down underneath the filler. There's only 1 or 2 now that actually Toyota, and I think on a couple of Hondas. If you in their sheets, when you look it up, it tells you to put epoxy on that particular metal that's on that car. Because now we're getting in a day that these new cars are coming with cheaper metals, and they're adding different things to make the metals. If any of you was around when we done the classes where we done rivet bonding, where you have some of these new vehicles that come with welded on parts, like a radiator support, but when you replace it, you don't re-weld it back on. You cut the old one off and you rivet bond the new one on. And we finally found out, because we was like, that don't make sense. They don't want it welded on because it's cheap metal. They welded it one time, you don't want to do it again. It makes you feel good about your new car. Okay? And that's across the board. That's on a lot of different manufacturers. But anyway, so we'll talk about this when we get in the back, looking at this old Mustang and stuff. There's a different way you're going to use some of this versus what you're going to on restoration versus what you're going to do in these in your repair shop. A lot of the seam sealers that these companies make has it written on the label that it's direct to metal.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Okay? If all OE manufacturers, Ford, Chrysler, any of them, if their recommendation is to put it over epoxy primer, why do you think that is? They know that's what's going to work, and that's going to cover your butt. Go ahead and just put the epoxy primer on it. We have got better ways now. Everybody would complain, it only comes in a gallon. I got to mix it up. I got to do this. I got to wait on it to dry. What's going to happen when this thing comes off? You know. So this is what happened for years.
Eco.
No. H primer. Oh, well, they just said I could prime it. I'm going to grab this rattle can of edge primer. I'll put that on there. No, it's not the same. Edge primer is an acid-based thin primer that all it is for adhesion to put a urethane primer on top of. Okay, this has no real film build. It has no other properties other than to help that adhesion. What it does have is an acid base to it that will push the seam sealer off of the panel. It won't help you, it will hurt you. Okay?
Is that the same as self-etching primer?
That is, yeah, exactly. So body filler, seam sealer, and any type of product like that is not designed to go on top of an etch primer. Okay? Only an epoxy. Okay? So the only reason that you would ever want to have an etch primer sitting around in your shop, really, is in the paint shop if you just happen to have a really bad cut through and you wanted to put a little something on that bare metal before you see it sealed over it. Other than that, there's no use to have it.
That's a light coat of that stuff.
And that's just a light coat. And we do want to kind of demonstrate that and for y'all to do it because epoxy is going to spray different than etch primer. And a lot of guys get in trouble with etch primer because they think they're going to spray it like regular primer. And all it's supposed to be is a light see-through coat. What we started with at one time, when we started doing these classes, we started dealing with this a good bit. Okay? This is great for having around a body shop. I get the fact that you don't want to mix up some of this, and because there's going to be waste. It's just going to be. This got us out of a bunch of jams. Because once you started getting body shops together, you would get information from one to another. Each shop would call with a problem. Hey, do you have a solution to this? Have you ran into that? All right, so we had a call from another shop in town, called him, he called me. Hey, we got this car that has to have foam in it, some of the expandable foam in it.
It's a Jeep Cherokee rear body.
Yeah, but it has to have some type of corrosion protection in the bottom. If you put the corrosion protection in there, we just said that it's oily and wax, the foam's not going to stick. So I said, what do? We can't get to it to put epoxy in it. I said, well, that's easy. You just go to the front of our store and get one of these cans, pop the little thing on it, shake it up, put a wand on it, and stick it over there just like you were doing cavity wax and just fill it up with epoxy. Well, I didn't know you could do that. Well, yeah. So it works great. The problem is, for a small shop, it's too expensive. Okay? If you got a bunch of technicians sitting around, they're all one right after another, and you pop one of these things and you shake it up, needless to say, you're not going to use that entire can right then. But it'll last about 2 days before it locks up. Because what happens is this is a catalyzed product. Once you pop that thing, shake it up, it's great, it's all mixed together, but the pipe life isn't but about 2 days.
Right.
That's about all you're gonna get out of it. Then it just locked up. However much you left in it is now thrown away. Okay, to the tune of what? How much is that, 38 bucks? Yeah, $38, that's a lot, okay? A lot of people actually went toward this, okay, SIM E-Coat, okay? This one, I can assure you, the wording from day one was wrong, okay? Everybody thought that because it said E-Coat, it's a single component rattle can, I can have the E-Coat color that I need, spray it on there, and the reps for that particular company who didn't know went around and told all their customers, you can put this direct to bare metal, you can put seam sealer on top of it, you can do all these things. Well, you know what this actually is? It's just spray paint. It's just a satin gloss. That was it. Okay, they finally, after they got bought by another company, they had to change the wording to where it's now E-Coat color and sheen. And there's no DTM written on the can or anything like that. But how many cars actually got done with that stuff?
A lot.
And failed? Okay, because that's all it is rattle can paint. For some of you, I know some of you guys are big truck. You might not have been around the car part of it. Or some of you restoration guys may have not looked into trunks and things like that on a lot of late model cars. You open up a trunk lid on a new Honda and you pull the rubber mat up and you look in there, it's going to have some type of color that's not the color of the car. That's the actual E-coat color that the whole car was done in before it got painted. Because E-coat being like an epoxy primer and doesn't absorb moisture, it doesn't have to have paint on it as long as it don't get sunlight. So you won't even find the bottom of the car is painted. It's just all that same E-coat color. When you see that car roll through that thing and come out and you see all of it falling off, well, the only thing that actually gets painted after that actually gets color and clear is the outside of the car and inside the door jambs. That's it. Everything else still stays with that on it, with nothing else. And it just gets seam sealer on it where it needs it, and that's it. So when you open up that trunk lid or pull a back bumper off, you will have, it might be a green color, it might be a beige, whatever that color may be, and then it'll have a colored seam sealer around everything that's not painted over. According to repair procedures, you repair a car to pre-accident condition, which means that however it looked from the factory is how you repair it. What we had to do for a long time to make that same look is you would have to put your panels in, weld everything, you would have to epoxy prime all of your bare metal, let it dry, then you could go back and put this E-coat product on it because it's nothing but paint. So you're only just using it for color. You blend it out, everything looks good, and you can put your seam sealer on top of that. That's why that white seam sealer was going around on top of that green color, because that's exactly what it's going to look like in a lot of these cars, and that's why you're doing it that way. So if you got the guy that just says, I don't give a crap what color seam sealer it is, whatever, now you're going to be doing it wrong, because you're putting something down there and painting over it. It's not OE procedure for that type of a car. Okay. Does that mean anything to you guys in the restoration field and all? No, no. Paint over it, whatever you want to do. The procedure part is still the same. Okay. So we do have some companies now. We have one now that is really more of an E-coat. That one is actually made in Finland. That is a epoxy primer that's in those same E-coat colors, and it is a true epoxy primer. The verdict's still out. We are doing a lot of testing. It's supposed to be really good. Time will tell. We'll see. You can put that down directly on bare metal, let it flash, put your seam sealer on it, or in your case, you can use it in the booth. You know, it's a direct to metal product and it's a two component. What's weird about it is that company figured out a way to dehydrate the product in the application of putting it in the can. So it's not going to actually activate until after it's sprayed, and that is once it gets some of the humidity back in it. So when you actually spray it, they want it sprayed a little further back so moisture can actually get in it. It'll cause it to dry a little slower, but its cure rate will be a little slow, but within a certain amount of time, it will be locked up tight. Those panels that I sent around, that's the primer that's on that. And if you take those and you pick at that seam sealer, because that wasn't sanded, that was just put the seam sealer on top of it, you'd have a hard time getting it off. So it's all stuck. When you are doing, yes sir?
What colors does that aerosol?
You can get, that company makes those in most of your E-coat colors that you would already be used to buying, like you would get out of SIM or whatever. That is just a whole new technology that's coming to the market. Seems like it's taking on pretty good. For you guys that are doing restoration work or the guys that are doing strip jobs, anything of that nature, epoxy is going to be your best way to go. The biggest thing, don't try to strip too much before putting epoxy on it, or make sure that it does not set long before you re-brighten that metal back up before you put the epoxy on it. So one of the things that we found is kind of a growing trend We just talked about the fact that these body fillers over the last years have corrosion inhibitors in it. Well, that's all well and good, except for whenever you see a car wrecked and you peel some of it off the car and it's got rust behind it. Well, how did that rust get there? Okay. In a lot of cases, what we have found, think about it, think about your guys in the shop and the work that they try to do. Just say that they sand an area and they got it all down to bare metal. How long does it stay bare metal before they actually put body filler on it or they put primer on it? Guarantee it's probably going to be, it's not going to be like it's set for 30 minutes. It's going to be several hours. It might be a day. It might be 2 days. Okay? Think of all your guys that all of you seen cars sitting around the shop in bare metal for a long time. If you don't go back and get ready for your epoxy and you got to resand it, you ain't got to kill it, but you just got to brighten that metal back up because it has a certain amount of self-healing to it. You got to get that brightness back in it, and then you got to clean it really good with some wax and grease remover before you go back and put your epoxy on it. That way you'll get your adhesion. So whether you're doing epoxy or whether you're going straight to body filler, if it's set too long without you touching it, you have already failed. You've got to brighten it back up. So how many of you guys is going to bang out a dent, they got it ready to wipe filler on it, and they take off for lunch, somebody calls, something happens, they come back in 2 hours. They already kind of passed that window. Don't just mix up some mud and throw it on there. Take a DA, brighten that thing back up, re-clean it, then do it. I know y'all probably noticed we have a lot of humidity around here. You're going to get moisture on that thing. Aluminum is actually going to be worse. You'll cut that time in half. It may not look like it's corroding, but it's already corroding in 20, 30 minutes. That'd be the safe side. So,
And aluminum's even faster.
yeah. So if you know you're working on an aluminum front end and you're doing a spot, you sand it off, you have some epoxy ready. Because if you go walking around for an hour, you going back to work, you're going to be sanding and re-cleaning before you do it. If not, you will, most cases, have some kind of problem with it later. Okay. Epoxy primers have changed a lot over the years. We talked about the fact that products years ago used to be full of lead and chromium and all kind of bad things that we're not supposed to eat and drink and smoke and whatever. If you can find a chromated epoxy today, it's still your best bet. Okay, so just say that you strip this Mustang over here to the bare metal. Or no, talk about that one.
Yeah, he
The
said,
one in the
"Please don't do
back. The one in the back. Okay, if you actually look at a technical manual, and it's amazing how many people don't actually look at a tech sheet until after they've messed it up. Usually when they've called me and said, and they reading the technical manual to me, I kind of know the difference. You know, now you just read it. I know what you have done. Okay, so lead, chromium, all these things, back in '75, they started taking a lot of that stuff out, and it has progressed down over the years. So generally, everything that you're going to get, very, very popular products that you're going to get from Glazeret, from Axalta, Axo, PPG, any of them, all are going to be lead-free, lead and chromium-free. And that's all well and good, and they will do the job. If it's your own car, really, really nice car, go ahead and spend a little more and get the one that might actually have chromate in it. Research that, and that way you also don't even put as much on it. Okay, the same version of this primer, this is a chromated version of this same company, has multiple primers that are epoxy. If you read the instructions where you're going to do underneath a car, or you're done a restoration, you've stripped the car, it will tell you on the lead-free version to put 2 medium wet coats of epoxy on there. But if you're putting this one, it'll tell you to put 1. So what does that mean? What does that tell you? This one's definitely going to be stronger. This one's got some bite to it. Okay. Now, the only downfall to any time that you get into a chromated version of anything, the color palette's going to be very limited. This is just going to be a god-awful ugly green. That's all you got. You're not getting gray. You're not getting anything like that. That brand of primer in epoxy is offered in some other grays, but they're not chromated. Anytime you add that chromatinol to it, it's going to give you that greener cast. Etch primer, they are a few around that still have chromate in it. You got to hunt them out. But as we have already discussed, there's not a whole lot of place for etch primer in our shops anymore. So you're better off just invest into the to that side of it, and you're just going to be better off in the long run. Okay.
There's certain chemical primers that are better for steel, aluminum. Can you run into?
Yes. Yes. So that goes back to if you're doing aluminum, large aluminum, definitely go with the chromated version, just because of the extra bite. Yeah, definitely. And it's still going to spray slick. It's still going to look good. In most cases, in that situation, color's not going to matter to you anyway. If you look into a lot of aviation stuff, with all those aluminum airplanes and stuff, every primer that they put on there is a green color. Why is it green? Because it's got chromate in it. Yeah, so chromate on that is still going to be better. You'll definitely wear your respirator with it while you're mixing it, while you're spraying it. Keep in mind that any of this stuff will harm you. Yeah, wear your gloves, wear your safety protection, and that way you can live through it.
So
Okay.
please don't taste anything back here when we go back there.
Spraying this is still going to use a different gun than what you're going to spray, or at least a different needle and tip setup is going to be different than, say, a urethane primer for bodywork. So you got to remember, everything that we've talked about so far is pre-bodywork. We're just talking about strip panels and what you can put on top of the epoxy. Okay? 1.3, 1.4, up to a 1.6 is probably all you're going to need. Generally 1.3, 1.4 is going to be fine because you're not going for a super amount of millage, and you're not also trying to make it ultra slick like you're spraying clear. Okay? There's a saying called "I'm a moron painter," which is if it looks good now, if I put a little more on it, it'll be better. That is not always the case. That will bite you. Well, that will bite you with epoxy if you're in a hurry. Okay, so epoxy is going to be one of the slowest drying products that you're going to use in your shop. And that's why a lot of productive body shops don't really like to use it, because it's not fast. Now, one coat will typically dry enough in 30 to 40 minutes to put seam sealer on it. If you put 2 coats on it, yeah, it's going to be 2 hours. Yeah, you tripled the dry time by putting 2 coats on it. Yeah, you put 1 coat. Yeah, plain and simple. Well, let's go in the back and look at some stuff and do a little bit of work. And what's that? Yeah, I did. Yeah, but I added another one on the other side that I'm gonna put around there.
So what Larry's wanting to show you guys is 2 pieces of metal. We'll let this sit in there for a small period of time, and we'll pull these 2 pieces of metal back apart, and you'll see where the cavity wax starts climbing up these walls, right? And that was the word they used in there as far as wicketing, is what that process is happening. But I'll go ahead and put them all together, sit them in there. We'll sit them to the side. We'll move on to something else, and we'll come back and look at this after it's had some time in there. Does anybody want to see what cavity wax looks like before? It is a nasty substance, but it serves a great purpose. So what we were trying to tell y'all earlier, and while they were passed around, if you look at the ends of these heads, they spray 360 degrees with one single spray, okay? Coats everything on that bottle. One spray. Jared, what were you saying? 2 coats?
3.
Three?
coats, yep.
Okay, so let's do
Each
it.
one is for about 10 mils, so we want 30 mils total. No dry time in between, no flash time.
They're used to that.
It's 2. Struggling with this hole. That is 3 coats. Everything inside that bottle is completely full and very cold. So I'm gonna leave some of these for y'all to do to understand what it's doing and you get the feel of it. Okay, Larry, are you fine with that?
What?
Letting some of these guys come up?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody want to give it a shot?
You have to purge that too, to clean it afterwards, or it's okay till next time? Okay.
Yep.
I will say one thing right here. It's kind of covered up now, but you can tell I put a yellow piece of tape at the very end. So you got to think if you're working on a car and you stick that in the access point in the bottom of a rocker or something, and you stick it up in there. We're using clear bottles. He can tell when he got to the end of that. So, so you know what would happen, right?
It will get you.
You stick it in there, and you don't know when it's going to
pull it off.
end, so you go to pull it all the way out, and it shoots 360 degrees over everything, right? So I always put something, I got a yellow piece of tape on there, something that you can see easily, just so you can be pulling it out, and then once you see that tape, you know you're right there towards the end.
So what I will show y'all real quick with that, since y'all brought it up, and I'll use this cup that I only had one piece of metal for. This is high-powered spray gun cleaner. Tip's clean, you're good to go. Stick it back in your package, it'll last you forever. Okay?
I would appreciate it if you'd waste them some.
Well, I'm sure the
least
3M
once
rep
in
and
a
the
while.
Norton rep would appreciate it if you use it one time, throw it away, but
Yeah.
in realistic shops, takes 2 seconds to clean it out, use it again. Everybody at one time.
Y'all better run.
You get it, buddy.
Step back. Yeah. Hey, put a mark on it. Put him a tape mark on it.
I need more to tape mark. Uh-oh, I can't see where my hand, where'd my tape go? There it is. Good. 3 times, you said, right?
Yes, sir.
Connor won't let me ride home with him. That was easy. What's that, 2/10?
Yeah, there you go. And to be fair, since my Norton guy's here, so Revive is the Norton product of the cavity wax. Their wand's a little different, like I said earlier. You can bend it in different shapes and do whatever you need to do. And then they have a metal tip instead of a plastic tip. So I'll take one of these other bottles. I'll show you the same thing with the Norton product. And I will be expecting a tip after this, Brent. So just to show both products. Does the same thing. All right. All right, guys, we got some more bottles up here. Y'all can continue spraying in these. I would love for more people to give it a shot just to see. If you don't, I'm just going to start picking people. And you're going to have to do it. So that's your option. What you need.
What's the cure time?
There's not really ever a cure time
Never
for.
really gets.
No, it'll thicken up some. But like they said earlier, if you get it in the booth and it gets hot again, it's going to get runny again also. So, yep.
Jason, you got a question. Okay. So it's got water right there. Be a real world test, wouldn't it? Oh yeah. Put water in there, introduce water to it. Yeah.
You're gonna have to decrease out of these holes. But all these little holes, you gotta have both doors and have these open. Well, there's other ways to get in here, and I think that's why Larry's got this here, so we can show that too. This particular door's got a hole here, you got holes here that you can run that wand up in. So if you did want to go ahead and do that, you can go straight down. I wouldn't put the glass in it yet.
Bill's want to, rather than rinse it out. All about the same amount, huh?
Yeah. What we were talking about earlier with brand new panels, there's really no protection except for that E-coat that's in here. Now granted, these don't get hit by sun and they don't really get the road grime and all that like the outside of the car does, but that's a lifesaver. It'll cling to all these flat surfaces. You're good to go. You won't have any more rust. You won't have anything will break through that stuff. So, but you see, it will seep down in the cracks. It will seep down in between metal. It will get anywhere and everywhere it needs to go. You just have to put it there.
Well, just from what we've done here and there, all used.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but just in one day. I was just,
Yeah, you do want to get, well, you just want to make sure it gets into the ledges and make sure it gets to roll down into the crevices. Is all that you're really looking for. You'll just have to make sure that if you're going to do soundproofing, undercoating, anything like that, you'll do it first because nothing else is going to stick to that. Yeah, it would make a mess. Yeah. But at that point on, water's never going to penetrate it.
okay.
Yeah. If you look at all those European cars that all came from very harsh climates, they BMWs, all of them's just been loaded with that stuff for years. For those very reasons.
Larry's got the 1K epoxy.
2K
It says
epoxy.
it's 2K. Okay.
So, good medium coat for this. And that would be the same for any epoxy, whether it's in a gun, in a can, whatever.
Right.
You don't really want to pile more than that. If you happen to be doing your edge primer and you're going to put urethane primer on top of it, that's all you're going to want. It does not look like much. It is only just to get a little bit of a bite. Urethane primers today are not actually designed to go to large direct to metal, just steel. It's not meant for that. If you get a product, if you get a 2K primer that actually says DTM, it's going to have some type of an epoxy base to it, and it's really not going to be a good sanding primer. It will sand, it's just not great.
So with that, I've got 2 epoxies down here. Y'all grab a plate, spray away. Etching primers down here if you want to spray some mist coats on something. But I would like everybody to try it and see how they spray.
Yeah.
What I will say about this product is
Yeah.
it does spray very well. Way better than most aerosol cans.
Yeah.
I don't know what they've done there, but they have done a good job with that. All right, not everybody at once again.
Have you ever seen anybody run a flat panel?
Say that again?
Self-etching primer, using it under another primer, does it help or hinder it?
If you're using you don't want to put it under epoxy. They fight against each other. Okay? If you're putting regular urethane primer that you're going to use for body work, then yes, it will work fine.
It'll work fine, but does it help or hinder it?
It would help.
It does.
Yeah, because most of those products are not actually meant to be going direct to metal. They're requiring an etch or an epoxy. Yeah.
You want it to cover, but you don't want it too heavy.
So I need, just for another upcoming project, I need all of these painted.
So I need all y'all to come on in here. Everybody get one. We
Yeah,
are using y'all.
I do. Larry always has a plan.
All right, guys, so we made these earlier with the cavity wax in the bottom of the containers just to show y'all wickening, so show how this stuff climbs, okay? So you see, couple ounces in the can. You want to pull
Cup.
that a cup? Excuse me.
Threaten him with a good.
See how far it is up there? Which is off a little further than what it is in the can. Pull them apart and look between. It's even further than that.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
That's the wickening.
So everyone sees
Yeah.
that?
Where those
See
two
the
panels
smaller
are,
areas
it
that are on
walks
the
up.
outside? Everybody sees that? That's the inside where the two metals are together. It's double the length.
Yeah, that's twice the
Yep.
coverage.
Can you please not get that on the table or the floor?
He's already got it.
Too late on the floor.
Look at that one.
Yeah, this one climbed
Yeah.
a ton.
3 times.
Everybody sees the importance of what this product does, and it is a real lifesaver in what you have going on, and it can make a good job turn bad very quickly for just missing this one little step, right? Everybody sees how easy it is and how easy it is to apply. Really no cleanup except for the wand. It's a no-brainer for any field, restoration, collision, it doesn't matter.
So I want to go back to something that I told everybody that was here for the open house, and the ones that wasn't. The reason that this particular class is first, that's the one I started with. I couldn't get body shop owners to tell me what their real needs were. I'm not sure that they truly knew. But I asked, and I asked, and I asked. All I got was, we need everything. Well, that's really not so, but what is really important to you right now? What is the hot button? I don't know. Okay, so this class schedule is simply based off of the problems and lots of questions that I had to answer within the last 3 months of doing my job. That's how I come up with that schedule. And the top one that was a problem was corrosion protection. So that's why that one became first on the list,
Because it's always forgotten.
because it's always forgotten. And it's so needed. And it's to keep our own self out of trouble. And I don't know that we, as what we do in our jobs, push it hard enough. You know, I don't know that we go into your shop and say, you know, I was looking in your cabinet and you hadn't bought but about 2 cans of that stuff in the last month or 6 months. Do we need to talk to y'all about corrosion protection? Because you're missing the boat somewhere. And unfortunately, we don't do that, and sometimes we should. Okay, so that's why some of the classes may come out as a little bit of a call out of a, no, you shouldn't be doing that, but that's the reason for it. Yeah, that's also why next one is on hammer dolly work, and we'll go into body filler because it's amazing going into all of these shops of how many body techs that can hammer out a dent and do a wonderful job, and how many can't, even though that's what they get paid to do. Okay, same thing with body filler. I know plenty of guys that can weld a panel in, they can hammer and dolly, make it look good, their mud work looks like crap. Okay, we got to do better. We got to try to make it where you at least get a little bit of knowledge and an understanding of how these blocks work and how they feel and what you need to be really looking for to gain that. Or learn how to work better with the body technician that you're working beside and use each other for their best skill set and yours. Not a bad idea. That's all I got.
All right, guys, we appreciate all y'all coming very much. It means a ton to us.
Yes.
I hope you continue to come for the classes. And we can learn something from you guys too, just by conversation of talking about things and understand what goes on in your shops helps us a ton too. So please speak up, please jump in and try to use this stuff and understand it. And again, we really do appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Good job.